Hi, I'm Bill Connerly, the outreach team leader here at Castine Church, and I'm with my wife today, Paula Connerly, who is representing Brethren Disaster Ministries. So, Paula, you've been involved with BDM for several years and packing kits and school bags. What drew you to BDM to start with?
Well, I retired approximately 3.5 years ago, and at that point I wondered, what am I going to do with my life? I'd been so busy. And one thing that I had always thought, saying that I wanted to do was, may I have lived my life with open arms, dusty feet, calloused hands, and rolled up sleeves. Mm-hmm. And I thought, now how am I going to do that to finish this life out? Mm-hmm. And at that time, we were attending the Eaton Church of the Brethren, and Barb Stonecash was a longtime BDMer. She is getting ready to complete her 70th trip this summer, and she's 90 years old. She had approached me on going on a trip, and I had kind of put it off and had attended a IF gathering that is always in March that is offered to the Brethren women at that time, which we have here at Castine. And one of our questions was, what do you want to do for the Lord that you've been putting off? And we had to write it down. And I put, as I wrote down, go on a BDM trip, and that was what got me started. So I thought, I have to keep this promise to the Lord, and I went to Barb, and that's when I went on my first trip.
BDM is about rebuilding homes. What type of projects have you experienced, and what do you believe is your greatest accomplishment?
Well, our projects are mainly what's left over from hurricanes and tornadoes and floods. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of gutting. We do a lot of rebuilding and remodeling and getting people back to normal. Mm-hmm. As far as an accomplishment for me, I've not really accomplished anything myself, mm-hmm. anything that I've been able to do is through the Lord's strength, but our team has accomplished much. And on this last trip that I went on last week to Bayboro, we got to finish a house, which was a real treat, because so many times we work and have to move on and leave it unfinished, which is hard. So we we finished this house and had a house blessing, prayed for the owner and the house, and presented her with a homemade quilt. So that's a team accomplishment.
Okay. And you've expressed to me many times that the personal and spiritual relationships that you've built on these trips. Would you care to explain one of those relationships?
Oh, I've made many lifetime friends, and with not only my team members, when we do attend these trips, we have people from other churches throughout the United States that join us. So I have friends from all over the United States that I've met. But the biggest friendship made is with the owner of the house. Yeah. Last week it was Miss Joyce, who was a widow. She was 72 years old. She had had a difficult life, had been in an accident in '92, was in a wheelchair from that accident, had lost 2 sisters to cancer, had her brother about 10 years ago hit by a car in front of her home and passed. She had lost her husband about 4 years ago, so quite a few hard times in her life. But she always had a smile for us, was always jovial, and that is probably a huge impact on me after all those trials and tribulations, that she was still so full of joy. And then in the morning and in the evenings before we go out, we always have devotions, and each one of us does that. So you have a different devotion twice a day, and you learn so much about people's stories on your team and the depth of their faith, and they help strengthen your faith.
You mentioned many other churches from across the country, and as you and I have talked, you don't have to belong to the Church of the Brethren to serve with BDM Ministries, and I think you've told me the majority of the people that go on the trips are not Brethren denomination.
Right, at the present, right. We are a bunch of Christ followers, let's just say that. Okay. We have quite a few people that were members of a Brethren church that have left the Brethren, or are from different churches. Our leader that is right now in Dayton of that campus is not a member of the Brethren Church and hasn't been for some time. So we're just a lot of people that are willing to serve the Lord and be Jesus' hands and feet.
Okay. So once a person considers volunteering for a week to rebuild a home, Tell us a little bit, what's the cost? Are you required to have building experience? What are the requirements for you to volunteer?
There is no cost at all. Brethren Disaster Ministries out of New Windsor, Maryland, takes care of all the cost for our lodging, our food, and our transportation.
Good.
So no cost to us, which is very helpful. Skill sheets we are given at the beginning, we have to fill out. My skill sheet is laughable. Most of mine, 5 is the lowest with 1 being the highest. Most of my skills are 5s and 4s. As I continue on this journey, I'm reaching a 3 every once in a while, drywall or baseboard.
Okay.
I usually put at the bottom that I'm a good gopher and a cleaner-upper and can give first aid.
Okay. Well, other than the building projects, they also have other projects for those who can't spend a week.
Yes.
I think the sewing projects, the packing projects. Give a brief description about those.
The sewing projects are on Saturdays, 1 Saturday a month, either at Eaton Community Church or at the Greenville Brethren Church. They sew bags for school kits, and then those school kits have to be filled. We also do cleanup buckets, which from the Hamburger Man in Miamisburg, he donates all of his pickle buckets to us, which is 600 pickle buckets usually a year. And we meet and wash those pickle buckets, and then we meet later on and fill those buckets with cleaning supplies. And those are distributed through New Windsor to anyone that's gone through a flood or a hurricane or tornadoes.
So if somebody here at Castine wanted to volunteer for BDM, you're their point contact. What would you like to say to Castine for the support that they've given you, or the people here at Castine? What would you like to say before we close?
Well, I thank them because 50% of our donations at Christmas Eve went to the Dayton recovery. And right now Dayton has a church on South Millfield Road. It's the Memorial Presbyterian Church, and that is our main campus while we do work over there. We are getting ready to open that back up. It has been closed for the winter because a lot of the work over there is siding and roofs due to the tornadoes. So that is right now open to anyone that is close that can come on a daily basis and work. So we have several teams right now. In May, the church will open and we'll be able to house everyone, so you can go for a week. In June, I am going to be the assistant cook over there for about 3 days. I hope we have no fatalities from my assistant cooking, but if you're a cook, you can cook or be assistant cook.
Well, we want to thank you for serving, and we know that if anybody wants to contact or check into BDM, they can check with you. We also have the information on the outreach board here at the church. And the last thing I want to ask you is, do you still love me?
Yes.
Thank you.